Food, travel, fun. These are three of the topics we're going to be talking about tonight. I have my special guest, Natasha Ho. And what's really cool is I don't even know how I met you, Natasha, but I'm thinking it was probably on Clubhouse. Was that it?
I think actually you were recommended from a friend of mine who follows you, and I think they may have met you on Facebook.
Okay, cool. Well, see, that's the thing is I never know how I meet people. I mean, not when I meet people for the first time, I don't know how we were introduced. I think it's a lot of fun because I get an opportunity to, first of all, I'm going to get an opportunity to know you, know what you
Mhm.
do, share what you do with the audience. And I love what you do because traveling and food are two things like I love to eat and I love to travel, but I never really thought about them as something to do as a business, and you've created that out of this. So first of all, welcome to the show. This is Women Action Takers podcast, where we help people get inspired and motivated to take action in their life. So first, how did you get started? Like, how did you get started enjoying travel and enjoying food?
Yeah, so what brought me to this originally? I'm so sorry, my eye is like watering like crazy.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. Don't cry.
I started getting
Maybe,
emotional. I'm
you know
so
what?
excited to be here.
I think you just chopped some onions.
I know, I must have, I must have. So what got me into, food and actually, when I was a kid growing up, my mom was always an amazing cook, my grandparents were great cooks, but I was really intimidated by being in the kitchen with them because they knew what they were doing. It seemed like they just had this rhythm and motion that they were just experts, and so I didn't enjoy cooking actually until I went away to college. I had to cook for myself because I didn't have my mom around anymore to cook for me,
Right,
and so that's
ramen,
when I yeah.
top ramen.
Top ramen, and I wanted to eat something slightly better and healthier than top ramen, so started getting into the kitchen more, experimenting, and I actually realized that I really love this as a creative outlet. And so, I eventually my career, I had a career in marketing. It took me to living in New York City, and so while I was there, I decided to go to culinary school at night, just to learn more about food and cooking because it was so fascinating to me. And so I was going to culinary school, but didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do with it. And then I was eating all these really cool foods in New York. I went to restaurants that had like amazing Malaysian food, and then it was Brazilian food at another place, or it was Ethiopian food. And I was exposed to all these incredible flavors. And I
Mhm,
wanted to find a way to understand more about that because in traditional culinary school, it's very focused on like, maybe French style food or European style food, but you don't get a lot of exposure to some of those other flavors. And
mhm.
so after I finished school, I had a relationship that was like my college boyfriend. Reason I moved to New York City. The relationship didn't work out, fell apart. So I was
Oh my
like,
god, that
okay,
never happens. Like,
that
that
never.
never, ever.
You don't move across the country for a boy and then it doesn't work out.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so it didn't work out. So it was actually a blessing in disguise. I decided I didn't have any other reason to stay in New York. So I quit my job and I decided to travel for 3 months to learn more about food. So I went to places like Morocco and Turkey and Argentina, and I spoke with local chefs and home cooks, and I learned from them. And really, what it opened my eyes to was not just being a recipe follower, but being somebody who could have the confidence to work with more flavors and really focus on flavor. And so that was a transformative experience for me in terms of growing my love of food, but really growing my confidence around food and my confidence in myself just to navigate through new experiences. And so being able to step into the kitchen and try something new is really just in my mind a stepping stone. It's like a microcosm for how we approach other aspects of life. If you're willing to take those risks in the kitchen, it can create the opportunity for you to take even bigger risks in your life. And so that eventually led me to starting my company, the Well-Traveled Palate. And what the Well-Traveled Palate is, I help food lovers be able to cook a wide variety of consistently delicious dishes and help them to have more fun, more ease, and more joy when they are in the kitchen and when they're eating.
That's so awesome that your love stemmed really from college. That was kind of like where it really happened. And you mentioned growing up and not really liking cooking and stuff like that. I remember this is what I remember about cooking in our household. We had one of those like galley kitchens. It was like lengthwise, right, and very skinny. And we had 7 people in the family. And then when my grandparents would come, we had 9 people in this really small, like a 1,100 square foot house. And small is relative, depends on where you live. That might be big for some people, but here in our country is kind of small. And so I remember grandma. I never liked grandma, by the way, but I remember grandma would put us in the middle of the floor of the kitchen, and we had this, like, she had this big pan. It was huge. I don't know. I was probably about 7. So to me it was huge, but it was probably a small pan. And she would give us like this big bag of beans and say, okay, snap the beans. And we would just snap beans for hours. And I'm sure it was just a way to keep us busy doing something, but that was my idea of cooking. So I never was interested in cooking. My mom was a great cook. I loved her cooking, but I never got interested in it to learn. Whereas my older sister couldn't wait to learn, and she is a great cook too. So it is interesting how it depends on our lives and the journey we've been on as to what we're going to do later. And so it's cool how you just kind of started to explore this because you decided you didn't want to eat top ramen. Nothing against you ramen lovers, but it's not the healthiest foods. And so you decided to go against that and do something different, and you embarked on this journey and journey to other countries. So I must ask you first, what is your favorite food? Like, you can pick like one food or one country's food. You can choose.
That's the hardest thing in the world. Okay, well, that's impossible. But if I was gonna pick from that first initial experience that I had, I think my favorite it's probably the Moroccan food. And the reason I picked Moroccan food is because it was such an eye-opening experience to try the flavors from Moroccan food. What I grew up with was a lot of garlic powder, salt and pepper, maybe some paprika or cumin, those kinds of flavors. But when I went to Morocco, I was introduced to like the depth of flavors, these combinations of turmeric and coriander, and then how they used spices that I consider like sweet spices, like cinnamon or nutmeg, and they use those in savory foods. So I had this dish that's called pastilla. It's very commonly like it's a festive dish that they make for weddings or special occasions, and it has layers of egg and almonds and chicken. It's wrapped inside of a pastry, and then it's sprinkled with powdered sugar and cinnamon, and it has a bunch of spices mixed in as well. So it's a dish where, in my mind, if you would have described the dish to me, like, it sounds terrible, I do not want to eat that. So, like, eggs and chicken and cinnamon and sugar, and I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. But I had it, and it was eye-opening, one of my most favorite meals I had in that entire experience. And so it really was an opportunity for me to think differently about food and think differently about life. Like, it was my first time going to a Muslim country, and so I think that whole experience was eye-opening around food and culture. So that's one of my favorites, but I can't say favorite in the entire world because I have many favorites, but that's one of the top ones.
Okay, yeah, that I totally 100% agree with you that does not sound very good at all. Putting all those things together, it sounds like, first I thought it was going to be an entree, but then you're adding these sweets to it. It sounds like it's supposed to be a dessert. So I don't know what's going on with that food. But
it doesn't sound right. But once you taste it, your taste buds, it makes sense.
Okay, I believe you. I will believe you. I will believe you. Yeah. So I love how you turn this into something. So I know you have a free gift for us, but don't tell us what that is yet. We're going to wait till the end. So you got to hang on till the end to find out what her free gift is. This is a really cool gift because it's not anything that my guests normally give, anything like this. So I'm excited to share it when it comes to that. Before we go a little bit further, I want to say you can reach Natasha at the well-traveledpalate.com. I'll have all this stuff in the show notes for you guys for later. You can reach her on Instagram. She is Hey Natasha Boo, and I got to find out about that. And then she has a Facebook group called Travel and Feast. Let's talk about this. What is your Facebook group all about? Why should I join your Facebook group?
Yeah, well, my Facebook group is all about traveled inspired cooking tips and recipes. So, if anything that we talked about today around exploring new flavors, spices, really bringing some more variety to the foods that you cook at home, if you feel like you've been in a maybe a little bit of a rut and you're cooking the same foods over and over again, and you want to explore what else is possible, how can I add some more variety? How can I work with some new ingredients and feel more confident? Spreading my wings and going a little bit more outside my comfort zone. That is what this group is all about. So I'm in there every week. I do a show called Tasty Kitchen on Tuesdays, and I will share about a different cuisine. So we hop around the world from week to week. This past month for February, in honor of Black History Month, we did a trip around to different countries that feature Black cuisine. So we talked about South African food, Nigerian food, Jamaican food. We talked about the American South. So we do that every single week. We hop to new places and you learn about how to work with those ingredients, how to work with the flavors, and you get new ideas that you can create in your own kitchen. And you have access to me. You have me as a resource to help inspire you and help you to do new things in the kitchen.
Well, you know what's interesting? This just dawned on me is that as limited as I am with my cooking abilities, maybe I have better abilities than I think I do, but as limited as my interest in cooking, that's what it is. That
Yeah.
you make it sound interesting. So I'm going to join your group, and no
I'd love
guarantee
to
that
have
I'll,
you.
yeah, no guarantee that I'm going to like dive right on in and I'm going to start cooking all these things, but I think it will interest me because the way you speak about it, it sounds like it's actually fun. So,
And that, yeah, for me, that's one of the things I say over and over again is I want to make cooking and eating fun. Like I want the entire experience to be fun. And it's not just about you having to master a bunch of recipes. It's really about building the confidence to be able to work with ingredients, work with flavors, and focus on the part of eating then and food that's really what we care most about, which is connecting with people. So I have clients where I do cooking classes with them and they get in there with their partner and they cook together and they have a chance to interact and joke and be playful. And then I have also clients. I have one who she's learning how to cook Chinese food because her partner is Chinese and he was missing those home cooked meals and he grew up in Hong Kong, and so she wanted to learn how to make those. So it's like the connection that's happening there. It's more than just the food. It's about what's happening as we create these meals and why we create them and who we create them for.
okay, well that's cool. I'm going to jump in there and have fun with it. My husband will be surprised.
Yeah.
Is that- so will I. I'll be surprised too. I've just never been interested in it. Every once in a while, I'll make something that's not my normal, kind of food, and I'm proud of myself. So I just got to remember that that's how I'm going to feel when we're eating something that's different. So that's awesome. Okay, I got to ask, hey, Natasha, Boo, do people call you Boo, or how'd you come up with this IG name?
Yes. Okay. So it's a bit funny. It's actually from my husband. He would always call me Natasha Boo. And so whenever he would post on Facebook or other social media, he'd always say Natasha Boo because we call each other Boo. And it's like, a pet name. And so the funny part was that other people started calling me Natasha Boo, like that was my full name.
Oh,
And
they probably
so
thought it was.
yeah, like I would meet his friends and like, oh, it's Natasha Boo. My mom started calling. She's like, oh, it's Natasha Boo. And it was so funny because I was walking down the street. I live near Seattle, and I was walking down the street in Seattle one time, and I was walking by a cafe, and a stranger was like, are you Natasha Boo? And I was like,
What?
what? And they knew me from my husband. They followed my husband on Facebook. And so
Oh,
they knew me as Natasha Boo. And so it was actually that woman saying, hey, are you Natasha Boo? Which made me think, I'm Hey Natasha Boo. So when I got on Instagram, I decided to be Hey Natasha Boo.
that's cool. People call my husband Weedy because that's what I call him. So I always refer to him as Weedy. And I think some of my friends don't even know his real name, because I never call him by his real name. It's so funny. Okay, so
Where
why
did
don't
that
you
nickname come from?
I think what happened, if I remember correctly, and this is years, like 30 something years ago, that one of us, I can't remember if it was him or I, who started to say sweetie, but the S didn't come out. And I was like, oh man, I like that. That's so much better than Sweetie. Because like everybody calls each other Sweetie, So I said, I'm going to call you Weedy or something. And he goes, I'll call you Weedy too. So it's not like we were clever enough to come up with two different names. We just both call each other Weedy, but it works. So we don't have to remember one name.
I like it.
Okay, now share with us the free gift that you have for the audience. And then after that, I'm going to have one final question for you.
Yeah, so we've been talking today about cooking and building confidence in the kitchen. And so the special gift I want to offer people is a kitchen confidence consultation. So I actually will work with you one-on-one to have a conversation about what it is that you want to accomplish in the kitchen, how to build your confidence, and whether it's like knife skills. A lot of people are like, what do I do with the knife? If it's you're only confident around one particular cuisine, and you want to expand into some more cuisines, talking about ideas for how to expand into something else. And we actually will do a look into your cupboard as well. It's like we'll look at the spices you have or ingredients you have on hand and help you to get confident working with what you already have, which is, I think, a really key thing that a lot of people want to improve on so they can improvise, they can be able to have more options. So what are some new ideas to use the things that you already have on hand? So if you want to get your consultation and hop into the cupboard with me, you can visit my Facebook group, Travel and Feast, and I'll set one up with you. Or you can also text me. You can text Flavor, FLAVOR, to 66866. That's another way you can reach me, and we can text and set up a consultation so that we can hop in the cupboard and help you come up with some ideas of what to do with the ingredients you have at your house.
Ooh, that's fantastic. I love that. I might be a little embarrassed on that one, especially right now. My husband and I'd like to play kind of like a fun game where we'll see how little food we can end up with by a certain date, So right now we're working on till Sunday, and we looked in today and we're like, okay, we're getting pretty low. We're getting pretty low. It's about time to go grocery shopping, because neither of us likes to go grocery shopping, especially with the pandemic.
I like that, like kind of getting the creativity is like, okay, out of necessity, what am I going to make,
Yeah. It's kind of, it's been fun because it's kind of like saving money, but it's on saving food. It's just a little different game we play, but we're saving money by saving food. Okay. So my last question for you is what is one action step our audience can take today, tomorrow, or next week to up-level their personal and or professional life? One action step.
One action step that you can take is being able to take a risk. Taking a risk is really key, and that's what I talked about earlier around getting in the kitchen and taking a risk. And so I think when we think of risk taking, we usually think it has to be some really huge thing where we're like, putting it all on the line, but it can be really, really small risk. It can be going into your kitchen and working with a new ingredient, or working with something that you already have on hand and trying to switch up a recipe that you always make, whether it's like, hey, you make pancakes every week, and you're trying to figure out what to do to make your pancakes a little bit different. Maybe instead of using your regular milk, maybe you try out a different kind of milk. Maybe you try coconut milk in your pancakes and make coconut pancakes, or maybe you toss in a new topping on top of your pancakes. That risk taking can start really, really small, and it can create the opportunity for much bigger things. So taking a risk and starting with a small risk in the kitchen.
I like that, because risk doesn't necessarily mean it has to be like jumping out a window or something like that. So I like how you put it to something so simple, and whether it is in the kitchen or just anything else in your life, taking that risk. And it's really not like it's not a big risk. It's a more like a calculated risk that that you're not going to die.
Yeah, and you can start to create the muscle of like, I'm a risk taker, and you create that belief like, okay, I step outside my comfort zone every now and then. I made a hamburger and I put, pineapple on that hamburger. I feel like a person who can do stuff that's a little bit different.
Don't do that. That's funny. I've done that before. Well, I didn't do that, but I've done that where, with the hamburger, I'll put in some kind of other things. Like I'll chop up some kind of vegetables or something and put them in there just to see what happens, and then, yeah, you're right. Cause it brings out different flavors. And sometimes whatever I put in there, it makes it fall apart, but yeah. I took a risk.
Yes, exactly.
And I wasn't
You
happy
might
though when we
find your
weren't
new
able to eat it.
favorite thing. You never know. You might find something that you're like, "Oh, this is amazing. I'm gonna do this every time now."
Yeah. Then you got to remember what you did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So this is awesome. And, I'm so glad I got a chance to meet with you and, and interview you about this because you sparked my interest. And I think that's the whole key here is to spark interest in people. For the podcast, it's all about taking action, right? And so for me, at least, you've sparked interest for me to take action and thinking a little bit differently when I'm cooking or when I'm going to the grocery store. Maybe I'll pick up one different thing
Mhm.
and try it this week, that kind of thing. So I'll be joining your Facebook group. I'm looking forward to seeing what I'm doing differently, within the next, just couple months, just to see what I'm doing differently.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. I can look forward to seeing you inside, Linda.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Natasha. I'll have all of the links to her, to her complimentary, what is it called? The cover consultation.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then her Facebook group, her Instagram, and her website. I'll have all that information in the show notes. And Natasha, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. You guys remember, just go take a small risk. It doesn't have to be something big. Just go take a small risk, but take a risk. Everybody have a great day and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.
Thanks. Bye.